Hi, I'm Jim Gordon in the offices of the Richmond Sentinel. Time for a special election edition of Richmond Stories. As we mentioned off the top, a special election edition of Richmond Stories. We're going to talk to a number of candidates who are running for office here in Richmond. Here are the rules for everyone. Each candidate will receive 5 minutes. We have a number of issues we're going to talk about, including healthcare, safety and crime, decriminalization of drugs, and affordable housing. A candidate can answer one or all, but each candidate will have only 5 minutes. Let's get to the first candidate. Aman Singh is running for re-election in the Richmond-Queensborough region. Aman, we've talked to you before. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jim.
Tight 5 minutes, so we'll get right into it. Let's talk about your party's thoughts on healthcare.
Well, you know, healthcare is, this is one of the issues when I'm at the doors, when I'm knocking on doors, it's one of the things that affects everybody, right? Mm-hmm. You know me, you know my story. I'm a cancer survivor. I got elected in October of 2020 and then got diagnosed in summer of 2021 with stage 3 colon cancer. It had spread to my lymph nodes, so very familiar with the healthcare system. But let's get into some facts and some direction. Ever since we formed government, we've been focusing on healthcare, right? We've been focusing on making healthcare better, and making sure that that service is available for everyone. When we formed government 7 years ago, we inherited a healthcare system that was really had not been invested in a decade and a half. You know, our Richmond General Hospital is a classic example of that. Announced again and again, several times, you know, press releases done by the former government, but not even a step taken. We committed to building the hospital. As you know, if you go by the hospital right now, Richmond General Hospital is being built. It's quite a unique project because we don't have any extra space, so it's being built right where the hospital is. You know, things are being moved around. So a brand new acute care tower that's being constructed right now. New cancer care center that's actually already open. And it's really, I know the importance of having a good cancer care center, you know, where you can go. And when you sit and you go through chemotherapy for a couple of hours, you need that. You need to have an environment that's conducive to that. Right. And our new BC Cancer Care Center at Richmond Hospital has that. We know when we formed government 7 years ago, the worst nurse-to-patient ratio. They hadn't hired any healthcare workers for a decade and a half. We've hired over 38,000 new healthcare workers across the board, thousands of new nurses. Just last year, 800 new doctors. You know, there was no incentive for doctors to become family doctors. Mm-hmm. And so almost 1 million people had no family doctor when we formed government. Just last year, we've changed the way that family doctors are compensated. Over 800 doctors have signed on to be family doctors. That's going to serve about 250,000 people. Still a lot more to do, right? But all steps in the right direction, right? New hospital, urgent primary, people can get walk-in clinics. So 2 new urgent primary care centers, one on Number 3 Road, one right here in East Richmond, which I advocated very strongly for because Number 3 Road is very far for my constituents who live in East Richmond. All of these things, new hospital, new urgent primary care centers, brand new cancer care center at the Richmond Hospital, thousands of new healthcare workers employed within the system. Of course, we had this little hiccup called COVID that did put us back a little bit. Yeah. But I think I'm really proud of my government's efforts and my government's achievements in the healthcare system. And we're just going to keep going.
Let's talk about an issue that is rising in importance to people, has always been there, but never more so than it is right now, and that is safety and crime.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, again, very proud of our government's achievements on this. Victim services. The former government had cut victim services. The people that deal with this in the court systems, Crown prosecutors, hadn't been compensated properly for a long time. They got rid of the tools that are there. I don't know if you recall, one of the first things that the BC Liberal government, and I'll remind everybody that the BC Conservatives, many of them are former Liberals. John Rustad sat as a cabinet member in that party and as a colleague of theirs for years and years. One of the first things they did when they got in was they shut down courts, right? They hamstrung the court system, the legal system. Crown prosecutors weren't compensated properly. We've changed all of that, right? We've identified where the issues are, and we've come up with solid plans to deal with those issues. There's still a lot more work to do, but we're headed in the right direction.
Just a few seconds left. Actually, let's any last points you would like to make in the 10 or 15 seconds we have left.
Really important. You know, empathy and compassion are things that I grew up with, that are part of my culture, part of my spirituality, and I'd like to think part of British Columbia. And I think a government that is empathetic and caring and compassionate is a government that all British Columbians deserve.
Aman Singh running for re-election in Richmond-Queensborough. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jim.
Our next candidate joining us is Cindy Wu. She's running as an independent in the Richmond-Queensborough region. Cindy, welcome.
Hi, Jim.
You are running for the first time. Take a couple seconds if you'd like and look at that camera right there and explain to our viewers who you are and why you're running.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Wu. I'm an independent candidate for Richmond-Queensborough in this provincial election. So I'm really proud to call this area my home since my elementary school years. And as myself, I am an entrepreneur and also a designer and has various educational background. So I earned a bachelor degree in fashion design from Parsons School of Design in New York, and also a master's degree in the world's #1 art school called Royal College of Art in London. So after I finished my education, I come back to Richmond and establish my own art academy. We offer various of classes including painting, fashion design, architectural design, industrial design classes, and AI programs. And our students have completed in a lot of international competition as well. And they also auction their painting to raise funds for BC Hospital Foundation. And I always inspire my students to use art as a way to give back to the society. And in 2021, I was crowned Miss Chinese Vancouver. These titles allow me to dedicate myself to more community work, including non-profit organizations, including Success, food banks, and also charity golf tournament, and Meals on Wheels, and more. So with my deep connection with the community, I understand their needs, and then so this year I am running for this election because I want to be a role model for young generation to encourage more overseas Canadians to come back to our country to work, to start their business, to contribute. So by stepping up on this election, I want to make our community and our country a better place.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the issues. You mentioned the hospital a minute or so ago. What are your thoughts on the current status of healthcare in this province, and what would you do to change things were you elected?
So I think for right now, hospital is not enough. So I think to have more funds to have a new hospital is very needed. And also for hospital, we can think of to have more programs, including maybe putting Chinese medicine in hospital as well. And then we can also think about some creative way in terms of healthcare. For example, we can think about the time bank system. Maybe when children is really young, they can accompany senior for reading and doing crafting. They can learn from senior. They can earn the hours. And maybe when they're older, they can use this hours, someone really young can accompany them. So that kind of is like a way to have more cares, and we don't have to put a lot of funding as well. It's like creative methods. So we can invent more creative methods, and then more funding, of course, in building hospital, and think of child care, health care solutions.
We have about a minute left. Let's talk about an issue that is really important to a lot of the voters, the citizens in this province, and that is crime and safety. What are your thoughts, and what would you do if elected?
we will definitely have more RCMPs. We'll hire more as RCMPs in our area. And then I think from children in school, in high school, we should more promote the drug education to ask them to know this thing in advance, to prevent later on crime and how to protect themselves. And then when we have more RCMPs here, and then when we can have more funding for local business, when the economy is better, it will all help the situation.
We've got a few seconds left. Let's talk about affordable housing. You talk about the young, you're around them.
Yep.
What would you do? What would you want to implement if elected?
For affordable housing, first of all, we want to have more affordable housing unit, at least 15,000 affordable housing unit for Canadian citizens as well. And for low-income family, especially have children, we should have a bit more funding for them. And also we can think of some childcare program for them, have more spaces for childcare, and then for modern parents, maybe they work for a really long time, we can also extend the childcare hours for them, so we can help them in different aspects. Yeah.
Hey, it's Cindy Wu. She is running as an independent in the Richmond-Queensborough region. We thank you for your time, Cindy.
Thank you very much.
Our next candidate is an independent running for the Richmond-Queensborough region. Errol Povah joins us now. Errol, you're running for the first time. This is maybe a time where you could look into the camera right there and give our viewers a little background on yourself and why you're choosing to run.
Yeah, Errol Povah. In terms of my career, I served 3.5 years in the Canadian Navy. Back in the late 70s, shortly after I left the Navy, I joined BC Ferries, where I worked for 30 years and retired as a second officer. Other than that, my main passion is activism. I've been an activist my entire life on a wide range of issues. Yeah, most notably anti-tobacco. I was very, very much involved in lobbying the Workers' Compensation Board, as it was known back then, in the late 90s, early 2000s, to bring in workplace regulations banning smoking, including in bars and restaurants, which seemed unheard of at the time, but we did it, and everybody has, dare I say, survived.
Benefited, I would say, for sure. Let's talk about some of the issues that we've been discussing with everybody here, Errol. The first one you mentioned was smoking and what you did there and that advocacy work. Your thoughts on the status of healthcare? What would you improve? What would you trim? What are your thoughts on where it stands today in this province?
Well, quite frankly, it's in the healthcare system is in crisis. I would say across Canada, but especially in BC. And personally, I would point the finger at the government, the Ministry of Health. I'm not convinced that they care about public health and safety, especially with their response to the COVID pandemic. As far as I'm concerned, they went way overboard. It was overreach. I'm of the opinion, as you can perhaps tell by my T-shirt, that that the cure was far worse than the disease. And Adrian Dix, actually, I heard him at one point suggest that COVID had put the province of BC's healthcare system into crisis. Well, I would respectfully disagree with him and say it was in crisis long before COVID hit. And tobacco being a huge part of that crisis. Tobacco is the leading and most easily and cheaply preventable cause of disease, disability, death, addiction, etc. It's a huge drain on the healthcare system, and yet our provincial government does virtually nothing about it. While at the same time, when the COVID pandemic hit, they literally turned the world upside down for everyone over a disease with a 99%
survival?
Not just survival, but recovery rate. Yes.
Let's talk about an issue also that I mentioned to everybody today that really has gained more and more attention and concern over the last 3-4 post-COVID years, especially, let's say, and that is safety and crime.
Again, it's skyrocketed, particularly over the last 3 or 4 years, and those issues were a problem prior to COVID. But I would suggest that COVID exacerbated them, made them much worse. If for no other reason, because of all of the people, especially in the healthcare profession, who were fired for refusing what I call the clot shot, the vaccine. You know, a lot of those people managed to find their way into another occupation or whatever. I'm not sure what they all did, but I think the number is somewhere around 2,500 in BC alone, healthcare professionals who lost their jobs. I think that contributed immensely to the homelessness problem, and or if not homelessness, certainly the drug and potentially in some cases crime too. If you can no longer feed yourself, you're likely going to resort to crime.
About 20 seconds left here. Just want to get your thoughts on something else that's a big issue that it seems to be in the news every day, and that's the phrase affordable housing. It's very subjective. Everyone's got an opinion on it. What would you do as an independent, not attached to any party? What would you do, or what would you bring up to address that?
Again, I recognize it's a huge problem. I don't have any magic answers, but I would certainly vote in favor of any steps towards solving that. I would suggest, if I may, just one single issue. I think the immigration, which is not a provincial issue, I recognize that, but immigration is out of control. The immigration tap needs to be turned off, and we need to deal with the people who are here and get them housed, and then consider reopening immigration. When we're talking I forget the numbers, 500,000 per year.
Last 2 years, last year, yeah. It's Errol Povah, who's running as an independent in the Richmond-Queensborough area. We thank you for coming in to join us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Joining us now is a familiar face. Teresa Wat is running for re-election again in the Richmond-Bridgeport area. Teresa, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Jim. It's always good to see you.
Thank you. Same 4 questions in the 5 minutes. Not a lot of time, but you choose how many you want to answer. Our first issue is talk a bit about healthcare and the status, what you want to do if you return to Parliament.
Our healthcare, everybody knows, is a big mess. 1 million British Columbians don't have a family doctor. And we have the longest waiting time to see a specialist. And we have the best cancer care 7 years ago. Since NDP in power, we have the worst cancer care in Canada. We have to be sent across the border to get treatment. Even then, you have to wait for a long time. So, and not to say that a lot of emergency are closed all the time, not only in the interior, but also in the Lower Mainland. So what we are going to do, our BC Conservative Party, led by John Rustad, we are going to focus on patient first. What that means is all patients, all British Columbia, only have to use their MSP card. They don't have to take extra. But we are going to incorporate the private healthcare into public healthcare, because obviously, with the rising population that our public healthcare cannot cope with all the demand. So we are going to put patient first.
Let's talk about an issue that's become very, very important to the voters, and that is the rise in crime and public safety. What would you and your party want to do or change?
Actually, all the root of the problem is arising from drug. Since NDP was in power, they have been supplying so-called safe drugs to people taking drugs. And for the past 7 years, we can see that it is not working. At least every day, at least 6 to 7 people die because of overdose. So we need a common sense change. The common sense change is we have to go back to criminalization of drug, ownership of drug. NDP is the first province in the whole country to initiate this decriminalization. Look at it, it's not working. And then, after so long, so much public outcry, they said that they're going to go back to criminalization. But it shows that this government, NDP government, flip-flop all the time, that they don't know what they're doing. Plus the safe consumption site, we are going to turn that into intake center. What it means is we are going to get all the people who are taking drugs into voluntary treatment. In certain cases, that might be involuntary treatment. If those people they have mental problem, they cannot really think clearly, they might go out and harm people. Those people, we might have to use the involuntary treatment. As I said, everything arises from the spreading of drugs. We have to get rid of drugs.
You answered both those questions. I was about to ask you about your thoughts on decriminalization, but you did as well. Let's talk about affordable housing. People have different thoughts. It's a very subjective phrase. Again, if you return to Parliament, what would you and your party do?
Actually, I have to say that NDP has promised 114,700 affordable units when they were campaigning in 2017 election. Unfortunately, less than 10% of those 114,000 units were built. So we can see that this promise has promised the moon, and they never deliver. Don't forget that they also promised the $400 renters rebate, and they never did until 5 years later. But even then, they have such a strict kind of review of your income that they only contribute 1% of the annual rental for a one-bedroom renter. So you can tell that this government totally cannot commit what they have committed. So what we have to do is, John Ross already announced that we are going to provide $300 for renters, for mortgage payers every month so that they can claim the tax rebate, tax credit, and that will really help a lot of our British Columbia. Either they are renting a unit or they are mortgaging a house. That's the plan, that we are going to make housing more affordable. Plus, we have a lot of other platforms as well that we have announced that we are going to work with the municipal government to make sure that all the development, rezoning, permit approval only takes 6 months, and for the building permit only takes 3 months. If the city cannot meet that target, we will make sure that they have to abide by that target so that the developer can build their houses much faster. Because right now, because of bureaucracy, housing units cannot be built as fast as we can cope with the population increase.
Teresa Wat is running for re-election in the Richmond-Bridgeport area. Teresa, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
Our next candidate is running independent in the Richmond-Bridgeport riding. It is Glynnis Chan. Welcome.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us. Glynnis, you're running independently. Why don't you look into that camera right there and tell our viewers a bit about yourself, your background, and why you were choosing to run.
Okay. My name is Glynnis Chan. I'm in Canada 44 years. I've been doing my fundraising job in Vancouver, Richmond, all over for cancer patient and dementia patient, senior people. So I love to do my charity job. So I never stop. So this time, when I come out to vote to participate in this campaign, formerly I am the member of the BC Liberals. I ran my election in 2020 in Burnaby City. So this time, when I'm stepping into the city of Richmond, because I see the drugs problem in this city will be going worse. So I got my mission to come over here to stop this drugs crime. Because I spent my 44 years in Chinatown, Vancouver. I see Chinatown from very good place, 86 Expo, and down to now is too worst. So I don't want to see Chinatown crime issue, drug issue, being into the Richmond city. So I have experienced how to deal with it. So I would like to voice out my Chinese language to understand the people in Richmond. So that's my strong leadership to do my fundraising, and I don't be afraid to do as an independent candidate. Would like to balance the power of the two parties kind of far left or far right. Hopefully, I'm be elected in the BC Parliament. So I'm on behalf of you is 100% voice to Victoria. I hope you can vote on me, Glynnis Chan.
Well, let's talk about some of the issues you touched on. You obviously have had some frontline experience in the healthcare area. What are your thoughts on the status of healthcare in this province? What would you want to change? As an independent, you're not beholden to any party. So what would you want to do?
Well, I've been done my fundraising for cancer and dementia health issue. I hate to say our health system is broken, and I would like to do something more than just raising funds for our people here. So if we cannot bring up the better health system, have more family doctors, and we don't want to line up at the emergency at the hospital over like a couple hours. It means bring the people not in the good health. That is not good for our residents. So our health issue is a very, very the top concern. So I hope I can do something more than I'm doing the fundraising for our people.
What about something that seems to be in the news all the time, and that's affordable housing? It's a phrase that's very subjective. Everyone has thoughts on what they would do. What would you do?
Well, since our BC province, what we call is a beautiful British Columbia, I'm in a travel business for over 40 years. If we're able to bring our tourism in a better way to have more people come over our province, that means we generate more business and opportunity of the jobs for our young children. So if we can make money, that means I can afford to rent a place, to buy a house. Mm-hmm. If we don't have such ability to make my income as good enough to rent a place, doesn't sound good. So I would say we had to focus how we develop a better economy to generate more revenues to our people. So the government had the money, then we had the money to spend. So there's like a cycle. So, if our low-income family, of course, we try to pay more attention and try to help them to settle down, like government can do some like co-op or low-income housing among the different cities, wherever the space available to build up the buildings. And so that at least we can take care of our residents here.
You've got a few seconds left, and when people do, we like to say if they've any other things they'd like to add. You have a few seconds left. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers?
Well, I would like to share with you, I belong to former BC Liberals. Unfortunately, now we have no one can be on behalf of this party. And I don't want to give up my election because I see two extreme parties, too far left, too far right. Would like to have all independent candidates be elected in the Parliament House. So hopefully we can join as a coalition team together and to make our either one party to win as a government, be majority government. So then we can have the possibility to balance the power, and then don't let our new government just spend the money without consultation to our people, and not just do some crazy policy that not help our economy of our beautiful British Columbia. So I love BC. I've been here since I moved here. Mm-hmm. So I hope city of Richmond can keep us multicultural for all kind of people migrated into Canada. It have to harmony society. So no one against each one. I say, we all are the same. We have no color. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's Glynnis Chan. She's running independent in the Richmond-Bridgeport area. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Linda Lee. She is running with the NDP party in the Richmond-Bridgeport area. Linda, running provincially for the first time. Tell us a bit about yourself and why you were choosing to run.
Okay, sure. So I have lived in Richmond for 28 years. So I start my family here, raise my children here. So Richmond is my home. So during this over 20 years, I have had the privilege of serving our community. So as a president of Richmond Chinese Community Society, mm-hmm. and my involvement with Richmond Hospital Foundation. So those experience just allow me have the first hand the experience, just talk to the people, know the exact need from our community. So the other thing is my late husband passed away 5 years ago. He was president of one Lions Club and always do the community services. So he just encouraged me to give back to the community, and his passing just made me reflect on the meaning of life and how to live it to the fullest. And also I'm the mother of 3 children, so I want to give them a better life in our community. So, and I believe the value of NDP, so that is people deserve the access to affordable housing, quality health care, and good paying jobs. So, and the one thing I need to mention is, because I live in this community so long, I think in my riding in Richmond-Bridgeport, we do need an MLA who lives in Richmond, who deeply understands the unique need in our community. So I think that's the reason I run for this.
You touched on healthcare. Let's talk about your thoughts on that and what your party has done and what you hope that they will do if they win election and you get into a seat as well.
Yes, I do have the passion on this one. So I am the ambassador of Richmond Hospital Foundation. So that's allow me to know how urgent we need the help and how urgent for our system we need that new towers in Richmond Hospital. So the NDP government help us not just expand our hospital. At the same time, we have 2 UPCCs in Richmond right now. I think we have another one just coming, so it's underway. So also, for many people here, we're talking about lack of family doctor or something. The BC NDP government last year just hired like 800 family doctors, 6,300 nurses, which help us. How 400,000 people just connected with the family doctors.
Right.
Yes. You know, for the BC Conservative, they just will cut like $4.1 million to the health care. So which means a few doctors, longer waiting times. So I think that's the risk we can afford.
Let's talk about an issue that we're discussing with all the candidates here today, and that is safety and crime. Tell us about what your party plans to do going forward and what you would be a part of should you be elected.
Yeah. So before I talk about this, I would like to share a story. So one day, when I visited my sister, she just so upset. She told me her neighbor passed away due of the overdose, but that's a girl only 16 years old. So we're just so sad that a beautiful life just end like that. So what I want to mention is they are victims, they're not criminal. So what we do right now, we just save a life, we then take them to the treatment. That's why BC NDP government, we just added like 650 those treatment beds. And also we have like 250 officers. We just tighten the laws against those drug dealers. So for the Conservative, for the John Roster, when they will cut those programs, just those preventing programs. So I think they will make our community unsafe.
It's Linda Lee. Thank you for coming in, Linda, running NDP in the Richmond-Bridgeport area where she lives. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Our next candidate running for the Green Party in Richmond-Bridgeport, it's Tamás Revóczi. I got that right, didn't I?
You certainly did.
Well done. Welcome. Thank you, sir. Okay, you are running for the first time, and what we're asking first-time candidates to do is maybe look in that camera and tell our viewers a bit about yourself, your background, and why you're choosing to run.
Certainly. So my name is Tamás Revóczi. As you may be able to tell, it's Hungarian for Thomas. If you check out my profile on the bcgreens.ca page, you'll see that I'm actually a son of political refugees. So it's kind of a surprise for me to even consider politics at this point. We avoided politics my entire life. But the fact is that I've also been working a lot with the Sea Island Community Association, where I live on Sea Island, right next to the airport, and doing a lot of advocacy and discovering that I really enjoy helping the community, at the same time building relationships with different levels of government. Specifically municipally, we've done very well. With YBR, we've done surprisingly well. And at the same time, federally, we're also making some progress with folks like MP Wilson Miao. The problem is provincially, it's been quite quiet until this election year, surprisingly enough. So as a result, it made me think, well, I'm building these bridges, maybe I need to be the bridge. So that's what I'd like to be, is I'd like to be that bridge, that neighbor, that concerned neighbor who takes your concerns to Victoria. So that's why I'm running this election.
Okay. Some of the issues we're talking with to everyone here. Let's start with your thoughts on the current status of healthcare. If you were elected, what would you and your party want to change, keep, or improve?
Thank you. So from personal experience, when I first arrived in Burkeville, actually I'm relatively new to Burkeville. I've only been there since the COVID began.
Okay.
So just as
4
the
years,
pandemic was
3 years,
starting,
yeah.
we were still shaking hands before, at the beginning, and we started elbow bumping, and by the last meeting with the realtor, we were on masked and standing at social distances. So shortly after, I fell off my bike just over on Bridgeport, near Sexsmith actually, and broke my arm. And didn't know I had broken my arm, but I was just bleeding so profusely. Long story short, went to the Richmond hospital, waited there for the requisite 4 hours or more to get patched up and discover that I had a broken arm. Long story short, bleeding on the floor, waiting for help, not a good experience.
Right, yeah.
And I think that was before the urgent care clinics had been put in place. And so I really feel there's real opportunities to improve healthcare, and urgent care is one of the ways I'm thinking of. Clearly, in our riding, we have 2 urgent care clinics. Mm-hmm. The hospital is technically outside of the riding, from what I understand, because of the new redefinition of the boundaries. And however, the fact is that I think more urgent care, more kind of intermediary solutions are needed. And this is just my own idea. It's not really a BC Green Party platform idea, but it is related in the sense that cooperative thinking may be another solution. Maybe health cooperatives, maybe some kind of a cooperative way to do community medicine, community health care, maybe a better approach. And just one other thought, you heard me mention the cycling initially.
Yeah.
Health. I've gone through a personal transformation for health reasons as well. Long story, won't get into it now. The point being that preventative health care. That's my big focus. I'm a master's runner, so I'm I'm not young anymore, but I'm still running. Yeah. So I run good distances, and with a former BC provincial saber fencing team member. You'll see that on my profile as well.
Yeah.
So health, sport, I think those are important things to focus on to make sure that our people are well and don't have to end up in the hospital as often.
Let's talk about crime and safety. Certainly an issue that continues to rise up on the list of most concerning things to the citizens of this province. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Great question. In Burkeville, we have a reputation or a sort of a community feeling of relative safety. Having said that, recently there's been an increase in incidents, shall we say. Nothing, thankfully, touch wood, nothing overly major. But at the same time, it's made me think about, we had an old block watch program. So again, community, neighbors looking out for neighbors, helping each other. It's a little bit of a double-edged situation because everyone knows your business. Yeah. But at the same time, they also care about you and they care about each other. In Burkeville, we still have that feeling where you can knock on someone's door and ask for a cup of sugar. Go to your neighbor. The kids, like when I'm assuming that we're similar age.
I think that'd be a fair assumption, yeah.
That kind of feeling when you went out to play in the morning, and your parents said, just, summertime, come back when the street lights come on. We still have that feeling in Burkeville. Wow. So I think that kind of community feeling, people are looking out for each other, is a really important thing, and that will just automatically reduce the concerns and the worries about safety and protect each other in a community cooperative kind of fashion. One last quick
Sure, you've got a couple seconds left.
Couple seconds
Yeah.
left. Okay. Metro Vancouver Transit Police. I always thought transit security. They're a full-fledged provincial police force, and they, to me, I don't see them being used very often. Their big focus is community safety. I would like to invite them to take more active part in our community and maybe have, if there isn't already, I haven't checked closely to be honest with you, if there isn't a community safety office in the riding, I want to make sure that there's at least one, possibly two, for Sea Island as well.
Yeah. Okay. That is it for our time. Tamás, thank you though.
Wonderful.
Tamás Revóczi is running for the Green Party in Richmond, Bridgeport. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Joining us is Henry Yao. He is running for re-election in Richmond Centre. Henry, good to see you again. I want to get right into this because not a lot of time, lots of things to ask.
Thank you, Jim.
We've got the same questions and points for everybody. Let's first start. You've been on the front lines for the last couple of years. Healthcare. Talk about your thoughts on the current status.
Well, I think everybody knows that my family lives right in the riding. My parents also live in the same neighborhood as I do. So healthcare is extremely important, especially for people in Richmond and to us. The reality is I think we all want to have a healthcare ready to serve when time comes. So I'm so glad our government has, first of all, we have expanded Richmond Hospital. We have a 2 UPCC added into Richmond. And of course, we have a second medical school added to Western Canada. Our hope is really making sure we continuously produce doctors and nurses to ensure that people in the future, especially British Columbians, will have the family doctors and doctors they need as we move forward.
Let's talk about something that a lot of people are concerned about, safety and crime.
Well, I think all of us care about safety. Like I mentioned before, my family lives in my riding, my parents too. And we want to make sure when they go to the parks, when they go having fun in the community, they're safe. I think that's any parent's nightmare is something bad going to happen to them. But I think for us, when we're talking about safety, we must, as a government, understand we must address both the costs and the issue at hand. I think there's a lot of mental health concerns we're also addressing right now. We need to understand that the government has put about $1 billion investment in the last 4 years to ensure that we look after and reduce a lot of challenges and provide services and therapy needed. We also have about 250 police officers adding to the system to make sure we continuously provide safety and supporting the community. We understand there are a lot of challenges out there. That's the reason why our government was very dedicated to address both public safety and, of course, the root cause of crime as well.
I think it's a subject that also is on people's minds, the voters' minds, and it's tied to what you just discussed, and that is the decriminalization of drugs. It is a very polarizing issue. You take it from there.
Even though I'm saying, I think we all understand one thing. We want British Columbians, people of Richmond, we want to protect their lives, we want people to prosper. And I think one of the challenging parts is because of the politicalization of certain topics, certain things are being, I guess, blurred in the process. We need to understand when we talk about decriminalization, we're talking about people, if they're used at home and the police arrives, they now have an option to treat it as a healthcare issue instead of simply a criminal one. We still don't allow public consumptions. We still don't allow parks, school ground, or port. Those are absolutely no still. It's still part of our decriminalization. And I think the key factor here, we're trying to save right as much as we can and still maintain a public safety that's much needed and much deserved for people in Richmond.
Okay, a few seconds left. No, that's okay. You answered this great. Last issue, and again, this is a big one, people in British Columbia, and that's affordable housing. Talk about what your party is going to do if reelected.
Well, I think one of the few things we have to understand is that young people should have a right to live into a community of their choice. Actually, allowed to a lot of Chinese Canadians, family is important. They were making sure that if the younger family members, such as myself, choose to live in the same neighborhood or similar neighborhood as my elder parents, we should have a right to access so we can provide support to one another back and forth. So it's important for us to combat the housing crisis as much as we have done. We're looking at both the densification as Bill 44 and of course transit-oriented zones as Bill 47. We combat against Airbnb, and we're also addressing the speculation tax to free up more supplies. I think our government will continuously have aggressive policies coming out to ensure young people, when they choose to live somewhere near in a community of their preference, the option will be available for them.
Got a few seconds left. Answering very succinctly, any last points you would like to make to viewers watching?
Well, thank you everybody for this opportunity to speak to everyone. As MLA, I know back then I've been working really hard for our community, and currently as a candidate, I want to make sure I continue to show the same level of dedication and support to the community moving forward if elected and I earn the trust of British Columbians. I think one thing I want to say is my family, including my kids and my parents, all live in the same riding as what I'm hoping to represent, and I want to make sure we build a brighter future for me, for you, and for everyone's family.
Henry Yao is running for re-election in Richmond Centre. Henry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Oh. Our next candidate joining us is independent from Richmond Centre. It's Dickens Cheung. Dickens, welcome.
Hi Jim.
You are running for the first time, sir. That's excellent and admirable, and we're glad to have you. Why don't you look in the camera right now and give our viewers a little bit of background on yourself and why you choose to run.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Dickens Cheung. I'm an independent MLA candidate for Richmond Centre. I'm a father of 4 children, and I've been living in Richmond with them for the past 12 years. My background is in finance. I graduated from the Sauder School of Business at UBC in 2009. And ever since I graduated, I came out to do natural health products in the industry on the manufacturing side and also on the more the consulting side. And why I decided to run for this election was because as I talk to people in my neighborhood and people who I work with, the resounding response that I get when I ask them how satisfied you with the current state of politics, they said, well, you know, people don't listen to us. The representatives don't listen to us. They don't hear our voices. We have concerns, but they don't listen to us. And to me, you know, it breaks my heart when I hear that, because politicians, elected representatives, are supposed to listen to the people. And so I want to be one of those people, representatives, that actually listens to the people and addresses their concerns. And that's why I decided to get into politics.
Well, let's start out with some of the issues, and we're asking everybody the same questions, Dickens. Let's talk about your thoughts and what you would do with the current state of healthcare in this province.
Yeah, well, healthcare right now is in shambles, to say the least. What I would do is that I would do a top-down audit or look at what the current system has in terms of capacity, right? Really look deep in, not just scratching the surface, see what we can offer as a system to match the needs or demands of our current British Columbians. And in that way, we would know, where there are gaps in our system and what we actually need to address without throwing, blanket statements out there about healthcare. And so when we have a good inventory of that, then we can decide, okay, how much of, private healthcare are we going to allow, if we're going to allow it at all? And should we do something like a 2-tier system where, if you really need to get care, you can actually, you pay for it, have that, at least that flexibility and that option, so that there's no gap in services for people who might need life-saving treatment. And I think that's how I'm going to approach it, is to try as much as possible to make healthcare available for everyone. But at the same time, having that option to have that the private part of healthcare to come into the system. And of course, to have certain guidelines in place to make sure that they meet the standards of care that we would see in the public system.
Let's talk about another issue that we're asking everybody about, and that's the current state of safety in our towns and cities and crime. What are your thoughts on that? What would you be prepared, or what would you want to do?
Well, the criminal code is a federal issue, of course, but we can, as a province, we have the onus is on us to enforce. And so I think we can be a little bit tougher in terms of interpreting the criminal code to enforce where needed and to give the police, law enforcement, more tools to do the job. Because when I talk to law enforcement officers, the answer that I always get is, well, we can't even do our job. I want to do my job, but I can't because, our hands are tied. And so that's an issue when it comes to community safety. We need to have the law enforcement officers to have the tools to be able to do their job. And so working closely with the federal government, letting know what our concerns are in the community in terms of safety. I think that's a really important conversation to have, and to give also our Attorney General and our legal system, more power to enforce where needed to ensure that repeat offenders don't keep repeating and causing, safety issues in the communities.
With about a minute left, let's talk about affordable housing. What are your thoughts on that? Again, another big issue that everyone has an opinion on.
Yes. Yes, I think it's a long-term structural issue. It's not something that you can just say, well, I'm going to do something and then it's going to disappear. The problem's going to disappear overnight. We need to look at it from an economic standpoint. Obviously, it's just simple supply and demand. On the supply side, how we can get more housing to be built is we need to cut the red tape as much as possible, make it easier to get in permits for builders to actually get to work more quickly. And that way we can help to alleviate the supply side of it. As for the demand side, well, it's a very sensitive subject in terms of immigration, but then I think we can take a more controlled approach to immigration to make sure that, we do proper vetting for immigration to make sure that there's the people who actually come in or people who go through the system properly vetted, and not to have uncontrolled immigration into our system. And so when we control the supply side and the demand side, I think we can make housing a lot more affordable than it is right now.
He's Dickens Cheung. He's running for independent in Richmond Centre. Dickens, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Our next candidate joining is Wendy Yuan. She's an unaffiliated candidate for the Richmond Centre area. Wendy, great to see you again.
Hi, nice meeting you.
You
Jim.
too. Let's just go through the issues. Not a lot of time, so we want to give it all to you. Let's start, first of all, on your thoughts on the current situation with healthcare, and if elected, what you'd like to implement and change.
So healthcare is a problem right now in this province. We have a crisis. 1 out of 5 people in BC does not have a family doctor, and I think that is absolutely not acceptable. And if I were to be elected, if I have the honor to get elected, I would make sure that we have enough doctors by seriously looking at having more foreign trained doctors to be passing certain requirements exam-wise locally, so that they can be qualified to fill that hole.
Another issue that we're asking everybody about, and it's something that certainly has risen in terms of its importance, I think, to the citizens out there, and that is safety and crime.
Right, safety and crime is an important issue. In Richmond, we do have a rising crime rate. So the current legal system is such that the criminals are catched, but then they're often released on the same day. Mm-hmm. So this is a catch and release program. I think absolutely we need to do something about it because we need to protect the citizens' safety. Criminals need to pay for a price if they commit a crime.
Which really connects to the next question, and this is a very polarizing subject and issue, and that is the decriminalization of drugs. The NDP implemented it, they're pulling back a little bit, but what would you do? What would you like to see happen if elected?
Okay, unfortunately, this issue, the decriminalization of hard drugs is only decriminalized in BC. None of the other provinces are having this program. So I think I'm really for not free drugs, but free treatment, free beds, because we need to be compassionate. Also at the same time, even though it is a big issue, like it is a problem right now, but we need not to, we need to address it in a compassionate way so that there's always treatment first, and we need to make sure people after treatment can be becoming a contributing member of our society again.
Another issue that is always in the news, it seems, these days, and that's affordable housing. Everybody has an opinion on it. It's very subjective, but what would you want to do, again, if you were elected?
Okay, if I get the honor to get elected, this is a human rights issue. I think if people don't have a proper roof over their head, it is a human rights issue. And I honestly believe that this is a front and center in my writing, and we need to make sure that enough affordable housing are going to be provided. If I were to be elected, I would have something called rent to own. So you can, if you don't have enough money, you can rent first, and then when you have an option or later on, if you want to own it, you can put the down payment, the rent into your down payment, so that just like a car, you rent a car and then you can lease to own.
We're giving everybody 5 minutes, and you have some time left in this interview. Is there something you would like to share with our viewers?
I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and the reason why I'm running as an unaffiliated is because this way I don't have a party to answer to. I can be serving you and you only. And I really like that idea because I think it's about time to do politics differently. And this is why I'm here. I am directly accountable to you and you only as a voter.
That's very nice. Okay, listen, it's been Wendy Yuan. She's running Richmond Centre, as she mentioned, unaffiliated. Wendy, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
Pleasure.
Nice interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candidate is Sunny Ho, running as an independent for Richmond Centre. Welcome.
Oh, I'm Sunny Ho, a businessman in Richmond. I am fighting for Richmond for this election.
Beautiful. And why are you, more specifically, why are you choosing to run? What do you want to see?
Richmond is sick because the provincial government is not fair to our city. So I had to run for the, MLA that I had to fight for the people of Richmond.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the issues that you'll be fighting for. And everyone's getting asked this. Let's start with healthcare. What are your thoughts on the current status of healthcare? What would you change as an independent? You're not attached to a party. Yeah. What would you change? What would you improve upon?
It's so simple. The government not care about the Richmond. We don't have the new hospital. But in Surrey, you find a new one. How come? So I had to fighting for more funds for health care, especially new hospital in Richmond.
And what about your thoughts on a subject that certainly has become more and more concerning to more and more citizens in this post-COVID world, and that's safety and crime?
Of course, the provincial government, the NDP, they have the funds, for the something like the supportive housing for the for the job taker, right? But no more senior housing in Richmond. How about change the camping location to the to the senior house affordable housing in Richmond? What I mean, our government have money for those job takers, but no money for the affordable housing, especially for the senior.
Well, okay, I was asking about, you've moved on to senior care and housing. Let's talk about affordable housing. Talk about what you would change for the overall population, not just the seniors, which of course need attention, but how would you address the affordable housing situation, crisis, some would call it, in this province?
Yes, of course, the problem of the housing is democracy, not efficiently use the fund and the resources in Richmond. What I mean, or in the BC, if I was elected, I must form a committee, to handle that case. That is simple. We had the resource, land, we had fund, we had, our people to be take care. So what we need is some cooperation and efficiency to do that job.
What are some of the other issues that are closest to your heart, again, being an independent, that you would want to address while in Parliament?
It's too simple. I am fighting just for Richmond because those people elect me. A lot of people, need my need because, Richmond is sick. Why is sick? Because the government is not fair to us.
But what can you do specifically is what I'm asking. If you say government, that Richmond is sick, you talked about healthcare. I'm saying, what are some of the other issues you would address? Because you have to be in Parliament and address that. What are big issues that I haven't mentioned that are closest to your heart that you would want to bring up in the House, in Parliament?
As you know, I am independent.
Yeah.
I am not working for those political party, so I just worked for the people in Richmond.
Right.
So I had to fight for it.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you is that as an independent, but what are any specific issues that I haven't brought up is all I'm asking, that you would address as an independent?
Yes, yeah, I am fighting just, for the people in Richmond. I am not a political guy. Those guys are for the political party. They work for their party, not for working for the people of the Richmond.
He is running in Richmond Centre, as we mentioned, as an independent. It's Sonny Ho. Sonny, thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joining us now is Kelly Greene, NDP, running for re-election with Richmond-Steveston. Kelly, great to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, 5 minutes for everybody, lots to talk about. Let's start right off with your thoughts on your party's work on healthcare, and if elected, and if your party is elected again, where you'll go from there.
Absolutely. Healthcare is so fundamental. When you don't have health, everything becomes very stressful, very scary. I've talked to a lot of people at the door. Somebody just the other night, 90-year-old parent in the hospital, said that the care was outstanding, but like clearly the facility needed an upgrade, right? And we know it does. It's been built in the 50s, and other governments have had an opportunity to take action, but we are taking action. We're delivering a new hospital. We're almost done the first phase of construction. You can see the construction out there. Getting to the end of the first phase is going to be very exciting for our community. It's going to be an expansion of the ER, expansion of beds, expansion of operating rooms, making sure that our growing and aging community has everything that we need here to look after their health. We also want to make investments in family doctors, because family doctors help guide us through the healthcare system when we have problems. And they get to know us a little bit, right? It's important to have that relationship. And so in the last about year, we've hired over 800 family doctors, and we've reduced our wait lists in BC by 300,000 people. We know still people need a family doctor, and we're continuing to do that work, hiring family doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, radiologists, technicians. Every part of the healthcare system needs to be bolstered, and we're committed to doing that work. I am worried when I hear about other parties' platforms to cut the amount of spending in healthcare. We need to continue to make investments. We don't want to pull back. This is the wrong time to do it. We need to support people, make sure that they're getting the healthcare that they need.
An issue that has, I think, always been there, but it certainly has risen up to the near top since post-COVID began, and that is safety and crime. Talk about what your party has accomplished, and what they want to do and what you want to do should you continue.
I live in Richmond. I'm raising my kids here with my husband. It's an amazing community. We want to keep making sure that we're growing a community that's safe for everybody. That means that when we are having problems with public disorder and safety, we want to take action. And part of what we're facing right now with repeat offenders, violent repeat offenders, is that the bail conditions that are set federally, that federal law needs to be updated. And our government has led all of the provinces coming together, because we're not the only one with this problem.
Of course, right.
So leading all provinces to take action, telling the federal government you need to make this change, but at the same time reinstating basically specialized teams that follow folks that are released, that need to make sure that we're keeping them safe, and that we're keeping communities safe. And those special teams were disbanded under previous governments. We brought them back because we are committed to public safety. It's very, very important.
Kind of connected, and this is a very polarizing issue, as I've been saying to all the candidates, and that is the decriminalization of drugs. Listen to the Premier talk and mention some pullbacks on certain things, but your thoughts again on what your party has done with this and going forward.
I've talked to many families, unfortunately, that have had a loved one pass from toxic drugs. So what's happening is there's fentanyl that is contaminating drugs, and so people are dying. And the majority of people are dying actually at home. They have jobs, they're probably working in construction, and they're probably young men. So when decriminalization comes in, the point of that is that if you're having an overdose, if you decide you want to seek treatment, is that you will reach out and get help, and that you won't die alone in your bedroom or in your living room. And so that is the point, is that we are making an avenue for people to get treatment. but it is not to be used to be being disorderly in public. And we were very clear about that, changing those rules. And so we will continue to ensure that we have pathways for people for treatment and that we are keeping communities safe.
Big issue, but you've got about 20 seconds left, and that we're going to wrap up with affordable housing.
Yes.
What you've done and where you see going forward should your party win.
Absolutely. So changes with short-term rentals, making sure that homes are for people, making sure that homes are not left vacant. Again, homes for people. And investing in public housing like BC Housing in Richmond at 2 in Blundell, more than 800 units coming to a densified lot, as well as partnering with municipalities and nonprofits, charities, and religious institutions to build housing for people. We need to move away from a free-for-all in the market and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that folks can have appropriate housing.
Kelly Greene running again in Richmond-Steveston for the NDP. Talking to you again. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Jackie Lee, running as unaffiliated with Richmond-Steveston region. Jackie, you're running for the first time. Tell our viewers a bit about yourself, and then we'll get to the questions.
Sure. My name is Jackie Lee, running for the MLA candidates for Richmond-Steveston right now. It's been entrepreneur for life, and it's been working really hard for the community as a Lions Zone Chair, in the immediate past Lions Zone Chair, and also the past Rotary President. I live in Richmond, live in Steveston actually, now 30 years now. Been working for the community, serving the community, and when John Yap talked to me, my Rotarian friend, to convince me to run, and I decided to run for a good reason, that my dad actually had an incident a few years ago in the emergency room, wait for 9 hours. He gave up everything in Hong Kong as a chief hospital as administrator and came to Canada for my better future. And so what happened is he stuck there for 9 hours, and we used to have the best healthcare system, and now have to wait for 9 hours to just get attended and suffering the back pain. So from there, I decided that I should be running and use my experience in the service and serving the community at the next level right now.
Let's stay with healthcare then. What are your plans? What would you want to change, implement?
First thing first, we have to fast track the building of the new Richmond Hospital, the new acute center. That is a must because we are in the island. A few days ago, we get the earthquake, and as an island and the hospital built in 1964, we definitely need to upgrade there. We definitely need the top-notch healthcare system, especially the hospital. A lot of people do not have family doctors, and the wait time is too long as well. So as the unaffiliated candidates, now I can, as the advocate for the party, whoever is going to be the winner, whoever going to be in government, I would be able to push them for the best benefit for the Richmond-Steveston residents, to make sure that they will hire back the doctors and make sure that there will be fast track of the overseas students, medical students, to be able to get into the BC system.
Let's talk about something that has become a bigger and bigger issue, especially since the time of post-COVID, and that is safety and crime. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on what you would want to do?
The safety and crime, I'm belonging to a local Broadwatch, Broadmoor neighborhood Broadwatch, and the system I will, if I get elected, I will definitely push for more grants given to the local Broadwatch society, so that we can do more preventive measures than after fact. We will have the community all together, neighbors by neighbors, to keep an eye for each other, so that we can prevent the crimes and also have a better communications with each other.
Another issue that people are talking about, and that is it's very polarizing too, is the decriminalization of drugs. Where do you stand on that?
Since the time that I was in another party, I've been really strong advocate for the drug decriminalization. They are just doing it without any safeguard rails, and it's proven that the decriminalization in BC without a safeguard rail is definitely the wrong way to go. That's why they asked for the U-turn of the policy right now. Definitely we have to scrap the decriminalization, and we need to revisit the 4 pillars to make sure everyone need attention, will get their attention there, instead of just one of the pillars keep going without any safeguard rails.
What What about affordable housing? It's a phrase that everybody uses. What would you want to do if you were elected with the party you're running with?
Well, I'm
unaffiliated, I should say unaffiliated, but
so which is a good thing that I will be able to represent the Richmond, just as simple as Bill 44 from the current government that they want to implement to the Richmond-Steveston area. If I get elected, I've been door knocked on over 10,000 doors, and the noise from or the concerns from the people living in Richmond-Steveston is that one size doesn't fit all,
right.
And for the Bill 44, 47, for some of the areas in Steveston that they are strongly concerned about that because they know that the traffic, the sewer system and the healthcare and the school and everything is not ready for that. And great that they give us 5 years delay on the project implementation or the bill implementation around some areas, but still one size doesn't fit all.
Jackie Lee is running unaffiliated, got that
Yes.
right, in the Richmond-Steveston area, and he lives in Steveston. Jackie, first time running, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.